on the YouTube channel and on Riverside.
Wait, this is actually going live out on YouTube?
Yep. We may have some audience comments. We'll see.
Damn. Greenwood unedited. This is potentially lethal territory.
This is raw. We're raw dogging.
Yeah.
The
Eddie
cooked
Murphy
version will
raw,
be exactly
leather tracksuit or whatever it was. The catsuit that he wore.
The red leather suit. Isn't that what or was that Delirious?
I don't know. Tom, I feel like you should know this.
I don't know, man. It's a bit before my time. I started with Chris Rock, basically, in terms of my African American comics.
Yep. Have we all got different African American comedian of choice? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just saying, like, Mark probably start with Pryor. You know,
more like Eddie Murphy, but
yeah, mine's Patrice O'Neill. So yeah, I guess we have got the three generations of African American comedian covered here. So here we go.
All right. Do you guys want an overview of the chapters or talking points, or you just want to be surprised?
Hit me with it.
Well, just Joe, just so you know, like I despised the film.
What?
I hated it.
How?
Absolutely hated it.
How?
That's
Bro, I don't know. It doesn't.
That's what's going
fit
to
my
be
personality.
Okay, save it.
What do you say?
Okay, basically.
He means save it. What do you mean? Yeah, you want to clarify what you mean by save it? Since
I got to do the proper. We're live streaming, but I got to do the proper introduction before we officially
start.
Enough.
Yes, fair enough.
So
in anger, sorry.
It's pretty incomprehensible, but that should make for an interesting conversation.
But
we'll start with that.
I'm not going to be trying to make an argument about.
Yeah, you just explain what's wrong with you to not like it.
Exactly. I'm just going to explain my personal flaws.
Explain what defect in your personality has caused you to have this erroneous opinion. And
I've had to come on here and I'm hearing this guff that Lost Highway is not a good film. Like, what on earth?
I'm not going to make an argument about that. Seriously, I'm just going to say because I don't know, but I'm not even trying to like be like
the hater.
It's not because I feel insecure. It's just I recognize that it works for other people, and it doesn't work for me.
The film is about a man's insecurities, so maybe that's the thing that's got to you.
Who knows? You can psychoanalyze me.
Now we're getting
I'm not
down
writing that
to
book.
All right, let's just jump into it then. I'm looking for one more thing here before we start. Okay.
Did you do a rewatch, Joe?
Yeah, this was my third time seeing it.
So you rewatched like in the last week or so?
I watched it yesterday in the middle of the day, and I had to close the blinds.
Slept since.
Yeah, I had to close the blinds, and I was just, I don't want people seeing my shame of watching Lost Highway in the middle of the day. So, yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant because it's basically a porn movie. So,
all right,
you don't want that.
All right, Nancy Reagan.
That's right.
All right, are we ready?
Gingrich.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the countdown.
Look at you putting drugs into the black community, piece of shit.
5, 4, 3.
This is gonna get taken down.
2.
I think.
Hello, all you textual deviants, and welcome to another episode of Texting. I'm Mark Will in Taipei.
I'm Tomek B is dead in the Russian Federation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And
all right,
I'm
take
Joe
2.
Greenwood. Sorry.
Take 2 and 5.
No, it wasn't your bad. We could have.
4.
Well, let's decide. Are we?
You
Mark,
let me hang.
No.
You open the door.
Yeah, we'll introduce
and then
you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll Mark, you'll introduce.
I'll introduce you. Yeah. Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, all you textual deviants, and welcome to another episode of Texting. I'm Mark Will in Taipei.
I'm Tomek B is dead in the Russian Federation.
And we're joined once again by Joe Greenwood of the 10 TB Hard Drive podcast. Did I get that right?
Yeah, 10 TB, 10 terabyte hard drive. The 5th best film podcast in the world. Here for your audio pleasure, listeners.
All right. Well, you're just the man for this episode because our textual focus today is David Lynch's Lost Highway. And I want to start with a question for you, Joe, because it seems like it's totally inappropriate for us to even be discussing this in the wake of Mr. Lynch's death. Is that not the case? What is your prejudice against delving into the work of recently deceased artists?
For me personally, I there's no rhyme or reason. I don't know whose microwave is going off there, but there you go.
It's mine, but it's finished.
Okay, cool. There's no rhyme or reason as to why I don't want to, or why I'm not so keen on discussing people who've just passed away, other than it just feels a bit gross to me. I don't know, like, I don't know. It's like I don't ever feel like when someone dies, I'm like, right, I really want to watch something now by that person, because then I'll just be bummed out that they don't exist anymore and they can't make anything. Yeah, that's part of it.
Would you consider it gauche?
I would consider it gauche, perhaps. Yeah.
Well, could it? Okay. I mean, I sympathize with that point of view, but is it not possible to, pay tribute to the deceased by celebrating his or her work? I mean,
we're gonna do that on 10 terabyte, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna discuss the films of the women of Twin Peaks. So we're gonna watch 2 films for each of those actresses instead, because we're a feminist film podcast as well, because we want to take it outside the grasps of a overbearing man. And there's, I don't know, I'm always one for doing the total opposite of what people should do, just because that's my nature. And I don't know. There's the other thing as well, is when David Lynch died, obviously I was bummed out, but he was ill and he wasn't going to be able to actually make anything anymore. So what use is he? But no, it was more like, he's an old man who's sick. It's not surprising he's passed away. But him and David Cronenberg and Martin Scorsese, 3 of the most overanalyzed filmmakers going. And it's not normally a filmmaker that I would delve into too much. I mean, we did Mulholland Drive on 10 terabyte hard drive, and that was because we had just a text conversation about it. And I was like, I've not seen that since I was 16. And I felt like it was something I wanted to go back to at that time. Just to see what that experience is like, because watching it as a teenager and then watching it as a 30-year-old, or someone in my 30s, I should say. So yeah, that was kind of my issue with doing a Lynch episode. But obviously, because you guys politely asked, of course I came on. I have to, when someone is as polite as an erudite as you two. So, and now that Tom has said that he despises Lost Highway, I'm like, well, my blood's boiling.
Yeah, you want to leave.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, exactly. Well, we hope you'll stay. Yeah, so maybe we should leave that for later. Why exactly Tomek dislikes this film so much? Or do you want to say something? I don't even
think it's a crucial talking point.
I don't think
it's a crucial talking point.
Of course
it's not, because
you're a host.
You're a host. I'm a host, but there's art that doesn't work for me, and that's because I'm an innocent child of the light.
But why? But that's an interesting way of looking at Lynch. Okay, all right, we'll get to it. Can I ask a question? Where does Lynch stand for you as a filmmaker? In terms of a personal canon or a personal ranking of filmmakers.
He's in my personal canon for sure.
Right.
Is he above Kurosawa? Is he above Fellini? I don't know, but he's in that conversation. I would say, I mean, you mentioned Cronenberg. Yes, he's in that same category. For me, he's more important than Scorsese. So yeah, I would say like he's definitely in my personal canon among filmmakers, and he's been very influential. I hadn't, before his death, I hadn't thought much about him in recent years or, rewatched any of his films. So
yeah,
I find, I guess contrary to you, that when someone passes, it's like a reminder. It's like, oh yes, I need to spend more time with this person's work. Or sometimes this often happens with music, right? Like there's so much music out there, and then I'm not even aware of it until someone dies, right? Like, oh, this musician died. Oh, who's that? I've heard that name. And then I'll start listening to, greatest hits or whatever. So it is for me, it's been a way to like discover new things. That's not the case with Lynch, but it could be like if there's some filmmaker that I'm vaguely aware of that passes away, maybe that provides me with an opportunity to like, try to develop an appreciation for his or her work.
What about you, Tom?
I think I just like had a sense of resignation at some point that he wasn't the filmmaker for me, and that's okay. Like
interesting.
What else have you watched?
Mulholland Drive. That's it.
I think you didn't like that.
Yeah.
You didn't.
I like Mulholland Drive. No, I liked it a lot.
What do you like about Mulholland Drive?
That much the first time. I preferred it the second time, and I rewatched it because of 10 Terabyte.
What
was your main? Discussed it a little bit at the time.
What was your main criticism of our review of Mulholland Drive, Tom?
Oh, I did have something, right? It was like, what, you didn't talk about the sexuality or something enough?
Yeah. But yeah, we didn't talk about the sexuality enough of that film. I mean, I disagree, but that's it was interesting that was like your.
But I think I meant it in terms of whether it was overly gratuitous, right? I didn't mean in terms of you got to talk about how hot the tits are. Or maybe I did. Maybe I did actually. It could have gone either way.
Well, I didn't want to.
I
didn't want to gaslight you or like not gaslight you, but call you out on your own show.
You.
But
there's some like there's some hot tits in Lost Highway too. So
all right, look, guys, let's not go down this road. Okay, let's not go down this juncture. Can I just tell you what Lynch's standing is for me?
Yeah.
Right.
And your Lynchian origin story. I mean, what was the first film you saw when? Yeah.
Blue Velvet.
Tell us the whole history.
Blue Velvet. I must have been 14.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first one I saw. And yeah, I thought it was great. And then subsequently, years later, I saw it again and it didn't do as much for me. But I think that's fine. Lynch is a weird one for me because he's undoubtedly made, for me, 4 great things, like great films. And he's absolutely not in like my filmmaker canon because I just don't think about him that much. Because I don't know, maybe it's just like a petty act of childish rebellion, but it's just like everyone loves David Lynch. So I'm like, he's overrated. It's like, he's not that good. And then I watched them and I'm like, no, this is actually like amazing. I also do think he's made some of the worst films, not some of the worst films, but films I greatly dislike. And I'm talking mostly, which now seems to be a bit of this was a consensus opinion back in the day, but has now become a contrary opinion. But I utterly despised Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I know. It's because I really love Twin Peaks season 1, and I like most of Twin Peaks season 2. but Twin Peaks for me doesn't have like this huge standing for me. Like it wasn't like a seminal text or anything like that for me as it growing up. You know, I haven't seen Twin Peaks season 3. You know, it's not something which draws me in, and it's one of the few things I kind of it just didn't click for me. Firewalk.
Then what are the four? What are the four great things?
Lost Highway.
Yes.
June. No, not June, but Mulholland Drive.
Yes.
Mulholland Drive. The Elephant Man.
Okay.
Which, just come on, like, what are we talking about here? And then, I guess maybe Twin Peaks season 1, and then I guess Inland Empire, but I don't. Again, it's not something I've seen in a long time, but it does need a rewatch. So those are the four things. It's like Twin Peaks season 1, Elephant Man, Mulholland Drive.
So Blue Velvet doesn't make the cut.
No, just in an arbitrary ranking sense, it's not for me such a key text. I mean, Eraserhead is something that I've not seen in a long time either. It's just a filmmaker I don't go back to. Whereas someone like Scorsese, like whenever I get the urge to watch one of his films, which isn't often, because you know, from the age of 14 to 20, I kind of burnt myself out on them. Like, you know, I watched them over and over and over again. That when I put them on now, it has got this. Oh my god, I'm basking in a master's work here. Whereas Lynch, it's just not someone I ever really think about going back to watch. I don't know.
Have you seen Scorsese's After Hours?
Of course.
Okay,
that's a masterpiece.
That's one that some people miss. I can't remember who we were asking about that, but he wasn't aware of it. But I'm glad you are. That's always been one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Tomek, your Lynchian origin story. I guess it all started with Mulholland Drive.
Maybe when I was 18 or so, maybe 18, 19. I mean, the lesbian scene was powerful.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm not saying it in necessarily a good way. I'm just saying it was like, it made a big impression. What we have to talk about this, Joe. You know what I'm saying? Like that's being transparent. It's like Wild Things. That lesbian.
Oh, what a movie! What a movie! That's an incredible.
I can't say what a movie for that either. But no, and also the filmmaking was like definitely different. I mean, I remembered that scene with the Llorando. That was also like burned into my brain for a while. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mark?
Silencio.
Yeah. No,
No hay banda. No hay banda.
Exactly, but like the song is Llorando though. Like,
that right, yeah.
Like crying, right?
Crying, yeah. The Roy Orbison song in Spanish. Yes.
And yeah. And I really enjoyed the rewatch. My wife said she watched it like just over and over when she was in college. But she said she didn't even necessarily love it. She was just like determined to figure out all the plot twists and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just enjoyed the aesthetic much more than Lost Highway. Like it felt a lot lighter. The color scheme is obviously much different. I enjoyed the protagonists more. It's more relatable.
Have you seen Inland Empire?
Nothing else. So this is my.
Oh, okay, just those two. So you know, it's an LA trilogy, right? Lost Highway.
I read that
Mulholland
today.
Drive, Inland Empire. So, you know, at some point,
and I haven't written off David Lynch. Trilogy. You know, I respect him because I just think this particular film, like, it's just not what I'm sensitive to darkness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I say that, but like two of the films you recommended for me recently, Joe, like I enjoyed both of them, and they were both, I would argue, rather dark.
Which films were that?
The names are not suddenly coming to mind. One was I think they're both French Canadian films, right?
Oh, Red
One
Rooms.
was about
Red
Rooms.
One
was Red Rooms,
and one was The Beast.
Yes.
Yeah, one's French Canadian. Yeah, The Beast is like the.
I think even the other one had a
Lynchian.
Canadian. Either way, like I liked both of those films, so I don't need a straightforward narrative, but I just I need to be more seduced by the characters. I need to enjoy the characters more. I need to find something about them a bit more relatable. I didn't relate to these guys like the main.
You didn't relate to the main guy with his sexual inadequacies and his inability to perform for his wife. Relatable? Is that what you're saying, Tom?
That's relatable. I didn't even I didn't even necessarily pick up on that much until I got into some reviews today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't that obvious to me, that particular issue. I just felt at a distance, and it felt gratuitous, to be honest. Even though I recognize that is. Sorry, just really quickly. I recognize that that's intentional and it's not meant to be necessarily exploitative, but it still feels slightly exploitative. Like, how many times does what's her name?
Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette, who I love from Boyhood, by the way. So that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I know her. But how many times does she have to be naked on camera? I mean, it's at least
as many as possible.
Film, it feels like. I'm just saying, that does feel like even if he's trying to make a comment about exploitation, it feels exploitative regardless. Or to me, it did.
Mm.
But she's. I mean, I guess she is playing two roles. One of which is like a femme fatale character.
It still requires her to fuck every scene, and
but she doesn't. I don't know. I just think. I don't know, when you've got a film which is about essentially a man's angst about his inability to perform and having to go into a fantasy to try and perform and then being yanked out of it, I think the sex element is going to be pretty heavy duty. I mean, I think this is kind of why people were so repelled by this film in release. I mean, have you seen the Roger Ebert review of this
I watched that. That was hilarious.
It's hilarious. Where they're like, "What the hell is this?" And then just sort of moved on. It was brilliant. And
then did you see that David Lynch apparently twisted that and when they said 2 thumbs down, he said two more reasons
to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's a great review on Letterboxd by a critic called Will Sloan, where he says it's the job of all serious artists to lay their most evil and disgusting thoughts on a slab for the world to see, and yet so few do. Lynch does with Lost Highway. And it's I kind of feel like, Tom, your reaction to the movie is absolutely as justified as someone who's just that movie rocked my world, because that's kind of the whole point of it, is he's laying himself out there in such a way that it's I mean, I also think as well that because obviously he'd had Blue Velvet and Wild at Heart, where he'd kind of started to, and Twin Peaks as well, where he'd started to indulge in that sort of Americana 1950s nostalgia sort of thing that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this movie, the reason why I like this one the most is because it doesn't have that. It's got Rammstein on the score. It's got Rammstein. Sorry, yeah. I didn't do very well in my Rammstein. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I didn't do well in my German GCSE, just to surprise you there. But I think the fact that he doesn't have that in there is why I like this movie so much.
Even the soundtrack kind of annoyed me, to be honest. It felt kind of cliche.
Well, there's a great Barry Adamson does great music on this score, and he's an absolute armor-plated legend. That man, Moss Side Story, one of the great albums by Barry Adamson. Check that out.
I'm not.
Well, he's the original. He's the original bassist of post-punk group Magazine too.
Yep.
I like the Bowie song. That was Bowie, right? In the first song.
Yes, Bowie, I'm deranged. It's the beginning and the end.
One of David Bowie's 6 good songs. Yeah, it's.
Oh no!
Yeah, you like that one?
Crazy Joe with those hot takes. I'm just saying that because Mark, I'm waiting for you to introduce the Crazy Joe in this episode. You haven't yet, so
What is there a horn?
We're getting there.
Play?
We're getting there.
Like that horn.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
We're getting there.
Well, sorry, I've taken this.
I was going to say. Well, I meant to say this earlier, but no one asked my opinion, so I didn't have a chance.
What's your origin story, Mark?
Yeah, I won't get into that right now, but I would just say that I picked this because I don't consider it his masterpiece. I would say that's Mulholland Drive, but it may be my my sentimental favorite, and it may have something to do with the time I watched it. I mean, I saw it in the theater, if I remember correctly.
Do you remember the reaction to it?
Yeah, well,
Disgust.
I was very excited. No, I was very excited. I was
Bible
very
burning.
excited to see it because I was already a Lynchian. I had been introduced to Blue Velvet, and I had seen Wild at Heart. I'd seen Twin Peaks. I'd seen Fire Walk with Me. So I was ready for it. Like when
I think Joe meant
heard
more like the overall audience reaction.
No, both. Well, I'm just the build up. Like, do you remember like if there was like walkouts or if people?
No, I didn't. I don't
on
remember seeing that. Where did I see it? I may have been visiting my friend in San Francisco, so it was like a California audience. Maybe they would have been more receptive to it than, other people in other places.
Yeah.
But I just I quite enjoyed it. I was impressed with it. I thought maybe I was like overly impressed by it, but yeah, it just has sentimental value for me because even though we'll talk about the apparent complexity of the plot, with the structure, the narrative structure has been likened to a Mobius strip, so we can discuss
Jonathan
how that
Rosenbaum
might be the case. But I think it's also in some ways pretty straightforward and simplistic, even though it's there are ambiguities and it's open to many different possible interpretations. The storyline itself is pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as complex as Mulholland Drive, or I've only seen Inland Empire once, but that was somewhat convoluted.
Was that the reaction like when you were watching Lynch back in the day? Because I guess maybe the difference now is obviously if you watch these movies, you can just go on YouTube and go Lost Highway Explained. But obviously, if you're seeing this in '97 at the cinema, I guess you're coming out of it going like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, you get this overwhelming sensation of it.
But I was prepared for that because I had seen his other work, and as I say, in my canon are also Bergman and Kurosawa, and so this I like texts that expand upon the genres in which they are created, right? So he did something. What I always liked about Lynch is that he could do something with film that you couldn't do with any other genre, right? Like if Lost Highway were published as a novel, it just wouldn't be the same thing, right?
No.
He does things that can only be done in his particular medium, his particular genre. And I remember at the time, like, the word uncanny was always like on my lips when discussing Lynch, or weird, and I like that weirdness, that uncanniness and strangeness that is susceptible to multiple interpretations. Someone in the chat is asking, is Tomek calling from the afterlife?
I saw that.
Yeah,
yes.
I guess your video's a bit fuzzy, but yeah, he's in like a Lynchian alternative dimension, I guess.
Yeah, he is. I wonder if also, because for me, like when I saw the Lynch films for the first time in like my late teens, early 20s, and all that, is that they are kind of like classic fodder to go to someone like, you gotta watch this movie. It's so fucked up. Like this movie, it's so messed up, dude. And then you're watching like, wow, that movie was messed up and weird. And like, oh yeah. And then when you get to your 30s, I feel like they just really clarify. For me, anyway, at least the ones that I've rewatched, where I'm like, oh yeah, Mulholland Drive is just about wanting this person, having to resort to a fantasy world to be with them, because in the reality they're cruel and hideous to you, and your life is a mess. And Lost Highway, oh wow, what was going on with that middle section in the end where he's the killer and all this? It's like, yeah, he's drifted off into a doppelganger fantasy world. He's having to use the archetype of his wife to ground it in something. He creates her as this sort of like femme fatale character, and he lives out some sort of like sexual fantasy of being like this virile young boy, and then that fails when she says, you could never have me. Is that the line that she says?
You'll never have me.
You'll never have me. That's it.
Something like that.
Yeah, you'll never have me.
Yeah. Well, and that's, it works on that level, or maybe in some sense it's actually real and there are alternative
Sure.
universes or dimensions or timelines. Just the ambiguities always appealed to me. And just the beautiful imagery.
Yeah.
I mean, the cinematography is amazing.
The use of like the sort of anamorphic lenses as well, how like the light just kind of like drifts across, and just like the total darkness that you get, particularly in the house, which was his house. It's his house, wasn't it? Where it's like just how dark he can make hallways, and just having people just drift into it. And then when they're looking into
that's
the darkness,
Lynch's house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe that is his house.
I did notice the darkness more this time. I watched it, I don't know, like maybe a week after he passed. But yeah, the shadows and the darkness are very important.
Yeah, I think also for me is that brilliant how he uses like extreme close-ups as well, where he just cuts in and he's got just a shot of an eye.
I liked that.
Yeah, just to kind of pull you out the space for a moment, to like make something a bit jarring in that time. Because now that I think about it, I don't remember him using extreme close-ups as much in his other films. I could be wrong. I mean, he has a particular type of close-up that he goes
I don't remember
for.
that in Mulholland that much.
No, I don't either. But he has a particular sort of close-up and angle that he goes for, where he's slightly above, and he's kind of got this sort of like judging eye over people that he uses quite a lot. Can I ask?
Well, yeah,
go on.
ahead.
Go on, Mark. No, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, this notion of the Mobius strip is, of course, not original to me, but is it valid? I mean, just listen to this. It says, in mathematics, a Mobius strip is a surface that can be formed by attaching the ends of a strip of paper together with a half twist. Let's see. It is a non-orientable surface, meaning that within it, one cannot consistently distinguish clockwise from counterclockwise turns. Twists and turns. Every non-orientable surface contains a Mobius strip. All right, that part is not as important, but is that an appropriate analogy to the plot structure, the plot such as it is, the narrative? I mean, is that really what's going on here, or is there a better metaphor for the narrative structure?
I mean, I guess not, but I kind of feel like the plot ends halfway through the movie, and then you just get the second. I mean, the thing is, the second half only kind of clarifies itself when you get to the end of the movie. Do you know what I mean? Where you see him. Do you know what I mean? Where it's kind of like, okay, he was always in that place, and that second half we just had is something entirely different. Because when he's driving off and his head is like smoking and shaking and all that, you get the impression that he was living in some other realm to get through being in that cell.
But in terms of the ring composition, the I don't have I guess I could share an
it's
image
hard
of it, but
it's
maybe
hard for me
people
to
know what it
picture
is.
It's hard for me to picture it, to be honest. Like
The Mobius strip.
yeah, like from that description.
Okay. Let me share. Let me share my screen here so you can see what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that? Here. Okay, can you see that?
Oh, I can see. Okay.
So it's a strip of paper, but it's twisted, but it's all connected, right? So
right.
it's kind of like an infinity sign, right? Like that 8 on its side.
It's kind of
So it suggests infinity. It suggests like a circular structure, and there's definitely like a ring composition. I mean, we end as we began with Dick Laurent is dead, so I like that looping structure with his twists and turns, and with the two narratives, the Pete and the Fred characters, there's kind of that's the twisting and turning that I guess is referred to.
I do like that as a sort of visual analogy, particularly also then if you picture that, and then if it's like a strip of paper, the end of the movie is just him ripping the paper up. Sort of, it's like, like, okay, we've been in this world and now I'm ripping you out of it and I'm placing you back into the reality of the movie.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So in terms of, that kind of makes sense to me, that sort of analogy. And actually, now that I think about it, is a pretty good example of the other LA films, Mulholland Drive in particular, where again, it's like the plot kind of ends with like half an hour to go. And then it's like, we're just in a reality now. It's like we're out of that sort of, as you say, the Mobius strip. We're out of the loop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's, the thing I wanted to ask was, where do you, okay, what, I don't know how to word this without making it sound like the worst sort of like Guardian article or opinion piece, but like, what do you think of like the politics of like a David Lynch movie? Does that make sense? Like, does he come across to you as like, I'm not saying as a person, but I'm saying the work. Does it come across to you as like a conservative piece of work, or liberal, or wherever you feel like it goes?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, we've hinted at like the transgressive nature of some of his work. So to me, that's not like a conservative or right-wing aesthetic necessarily, but I'm maybe too much influenced by what I know of him personally. Maybe I've seen too many interviews or read too much about his opinions, and
the fact that he voted for Ronald Reagan and Bernie Sanders. Like those are the
okay, I didn't know about that, but I knew he admired Reagan. But then you think, okay, maybe that's because of the movie connection. He just thought he was like a good actor playing a president or whatever, and didn't necessarily agree with the policies. But I saw this interview with
Zelensky.
I saw, there you go.
Moderately successful comedian.
Yeah, I saw this interview with Lars von Trier, and he was talking about how he idolized Lynch, and then he was so disappointed when he saw him, pimping transcendental meditation. He's like, how can this great man be like selling ice cream?
Yeah.
So maybe, and I've seen some of those interviews. Like he interviews Paul McCartney, and he's like, so you met the Maharishi, yeah? You met him. You were in India with. It's like, wow, okay. I mean, it's it was somewhat disappointing to see that, but that's why I guess the work is so much more important than the person.
Someone linked me to a podcast the day after he died, where it was like a 3.5-hour podcast on the history of that yoga, transcendental meditation, and the links to child sex trafficking and horrendous crimes that they've done. And I listened to all of it, and I found it somewhat tenuous, but very entertaining, nonetheless, to be making such salacious claims, particularly, getting that they did it before he died, but getting it after he died is pretty salacious stuff to be hearing. That, I guess there's something weird about it. I don't know, like whatever gets you through the day. I try not to judge too much, but it's.
I mean, I think your original question was the more interesting one.
What about him being conservative or his politics?
Politics based on the art rather than necessarily his biography.
Yeah. Well, can I just give my point of view on this? Is that I think the traditional Lynch take is he likes to show Americana and the suburbs, and then he likes to show the grimy underneath quality that's, the shot of Blue Velvet of going underneath, and you see the bugs and all that, or whatever else, and you see the dirty secrets of that. My take is somewhat bit different. I actually feel like he's actually not criticizing that stuff at all, because I think most of the things in his work that brings down that whole suburbia Americana 1950s perfect image outsider forces, things that want to come in and destroy it rather than the actual structure itself, like in Twin Peaks or Blue Velvet, or in even in this one, I guess, like the whole, like, maybe even the Institute of Marriage being like the thing that he's sort of like upholding. But I always feel like it's an outsider force that's bringing it down rather than what's actually in there already. And so
it is an essentially conservative, traditionalist
elements of it,
viewpoint.
For sure.
Yes. Well, I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about all of the cops and intelligence agents they're basically, they're like heroes of the story, like Cooper in the whole Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me saga, right? Like, I mean, this is a G-man, this is a Fed, this is a, this is, in my world, these people are like the villains. They're the most evil people on earth, and he kind of celebrates them and accepts them. I mean,
somewhat deifies, but it also shows, I guess maybe the thing is their flaws aren't actually the job, it's more just their quirks. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just rather than,
but that implies a kind of acceptance, right? Where so that would be a kind of conformist, traditionalist, almost, you could say, authoritarian kind of viewpoint that's celebrated. So that is another thing that perhaps makes me uncomfortable and intrigues me about his work, right? Like I appreciate artistic productions which make me uncomfortable. I don't want to I don't want everything to just reinforce my own prejudices, right? Like I enjoy being challenged and made to feel uncomfortable. I like provocative, transgressive work. So I think that's why he's always appealed to me.
Yeah, same. It's kind of like, there's the filmmaker, they're not on the same level in terms of talent, but do you know the filmmaker S. Craig Zahler? He made like Dragged Across Concrete, if you ever saw that film from a couple of years ago. Fantastic movie, right? But he is like, he's one of these like, oh, I'm just asking questions, conservative types, whatever. And he has his characters in very matter-of-fact ways say things which are like very, if you heard them from a friend, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is really quite offensive. But he kind of like says it, not even like supporting what they say. He's just like throwing it out there to the audience, going like, how does that make you feel? Like, kind of like poking you a bit. Right. Like, and at times I'm like, oh man, this is gross. But in that moment of feeling gross, I'm like, oh, but I like it. I like someone jabbing me in the gut here. I like the fact that he's made a film, the film before, where it's got like a skinhead pro-America criminal is the hero of the movie, and I'm like, fucking hell, this guy, I don't know, I wouldn't want to hang out with him. Like
yeah.
But you end up empathizing with him because the journey he goes on. It's like, I like that, and I like that about Lynch. Those things I said where I'm like, he's implying the outsider evil, to me, is interesting, and in fact is more interesting than Americana. They were just covering up all the dirty stuff going on. It's like, I guess, there's so many books and films about that. The work of Douglas Sirk is just that. I like the fact that he's built on that and is bringing in something dreamlike and ethereal and unknowable.
The dream, yes, that is like throughout his work. That is all important. The questioning of reality, the dichotomy, the ambiguous dichotomy of dream versus reality, like that's always questioned in a way that I appreciate,
Yeah.
And we could go on and on about how, like, he's open to things on the set that aren't in the script, and he incorporates them into the film. The best example maybe being Bob from Fire Walk with Me, right? Like one of the members of the crew appears in a mirror while they're shooting, and then he likes the image and incorporates that person as a character in the film. Have we lost you? Are you frozen there? Tomek, you've been quiet. You want to say something?
I'm enjoying listening. I don't feel repressed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
How about the dream element?
Good. You don't feel repressed, unlike the women in this film.
Exactly. Oppressed, I would say.
How about the dream element? Does that not attract you?
I like Waking Life for my dream film.
Okay. Yeah, there was something else I was gonna
should we go
say about that, but let's carry on.
Can I just say that why I like this film the most, though? Because I do think Mulholland Drive is kind of the masterpiece, but this is actually my favorite Lynch.
Yeah.
Is there's a great, again, there's a really good critic called John Semley. He wrote something about this where it was like, hold on, let me try and find it. Okay. Oh, the thing about this movie, and I realized watching it at the time yesterday, that like it feels like his most contemporary film. Like he's not harkening to any past.
We're losing you a bit, bro.
Taking the old.
Your audio's a bit spotty.
Kind of like, going on. Let me just close everything down. I've literally got 4 tabs open and my computer this internet can't handle it. Right, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay, cool. So there's John Semley has this thing about, in his review, because why it feels like he's taking the old noir tropes and he's kind of like ramming it into the present of the 90s, and it kind of makes the film feel contemporary now. And he's like, John Semley wrote, it's not wrapped up in the more ionized malt shop nostalgia of Blue Velvet, Twin Peaks, or even Mulholland Drive, and as such, it is not about pastness in the same way lots of Lynch's best films are. Though the fact that he shoots slow down his eye socks is quite a lot of links about his inability. Smashing Pumpkins. That's the thing I like about this movie the most, is that he does kind of drop the 1950s, quirk and tone of it.
I wonder how much of that is due to his co-writer, because he collaborates with Barry Gifford, who is the author of the novel Wild at Heart, which was the basis for a previous Lynchian film. I don't know much about Gifford, but I do know he was very much influenced by the Beats. So maybe he's responsible for the more 1960s kind of vibe, or the, I don't know, the whatever we can say, the graduation from that 1950s nostalgia.
Yeah. Tom, can you actually just go into why you dislike the movie so much?
I was tired. That's
Come
probably.
on, man.
I mean, that could be a reason, but I mean, again, I just didn't. The tone of the. I don't know. Do you call? I guess the noir tone of like the criminal stuff.
Yeah.
That's like not really interesting for me. It's just more like it's from something I just can't relate to.
Yeah.
I would just say like the most basic way would just be saying it not relatable, obtuse, which some people enjoy, but I need more than that. Like I need more than just kind of, well, let me try and figure this out. Like I watched that Ebert and Siskel review or Siskel and Ebert, sorry. And yeah, they're getting completely panned in the comments, and I'm not saying that's not justified, but I had the same reaction as they did. Like it's a lot of sex and a lot of violence, and for what? Like I didn't get enough of the plot line to feel that invested. And as I said before, it just felt like slightly exploitative.
Yeah.
You mentioned the noir element. That's important because, I mean, forget about the 50s and the 60s. He's hearkening back to like, the 30s and 40s. Like, we lost Joe there.
But yeah, I mean, I like, do you get why I don't like it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I get why people say they don't understand it, or their reaction is, what the hell is this? That's fine. I mean, I have the same reaction to a certain extent, but I like that. I like things that make me say, what the hell is this?
Yeah, but because I do too sometimes. Like I don't. Yeah. But I need it. I like it with if it has a tone that's warmer. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if I don't need answers, if I'm like, if I'm enjoying, like if there's beautiful shots of nature or something, or again, if the color palette is brighter, but if it's like, if it's challenging plus dark, it's not too much as fun for me. Yeah, it's like I'm not getting either. I'm not getting the satisfaction of the moment. Like I'm thinking about this film I watched when I was in Moscow. And I know that you know it, Joe, but I can't remember. It was by that Thai filmmaker.
Pitchapong Weerasethakul.
Yeah, one of his more recent films.
Memoria?
Yeah, Memoria, that's right. And we discussed it at the time. I'm just saying, I don't know why that movie is coming to mind, but just in the sense of, again, I wasn't like getting a very clear narrative there, but I could just sit and be with that film.
Because his work and Lynch is very closely linked just because of the use of dreams in his work. Like people will literally fall asleep in his films, and then
anyway, my point is like I could be happy in that film again because it just didn't have like that constant ramping of like
Rammstein
violence and
you didn't have the Rammstein porno. You didn't have that in there, which is the flaw of a Pitchapong for me. Is there's not enough of Rammstein pornos, I mean, I think I understand like your whole thing of like the sex and it being gratuitous, and that is kind of somewhat the point of it. Yes. I just think the image of Patricia Arquette being forced to strip at gunpoint and the wide angle shot of that, where you've got the men around and there's the gun to her head. I just, to me, there's very few things as cinematically stimulating and upsetting and as brutal as that. Like,
provocative,
to me, yeah. Like, this guy's literally tipping the bin of his brain onto a screen, about I mean, maybe it's about his flaws as a husband,
I like
maybe it
Tarantino
isn't.
better.
Maybe...
Also, is that like a terrible thing to say?
No, that's your
Tarantino fucking
that's your
sucks.
right. But
I knew that you're not. I knew
well,
that you might react to that. I'm just saying
there's
that's much more. I love stylish.
Three good
right?
films.
There's the classic. There's the classic essay by David Foster Wallace comparing Lynch and Tarantino.
Really?
Yeah. He says his argument is, well, Tarantino's fascinated by the cutting off of an ear, whereas Lynch is fascinated by the ear itself.
Because of the Blue Velvet.
Reservoir Dogs and
Blue Velvet,
the discovery of the ear in Blue Velvet. So it's I guess the argument is that there's too much gratuitous violence or cartoonish violence in Tarantino. Of course, there's violence in,
but it's more stylish
Lynch too.
It's like,
yes, I understand, but
what does more?
But I think one
mean?
thing. What's
like
that?
Choreographed, like just aesthetic.
I disagree.
Aesthetic.
I disagree. I think they're.
Well, if
they're
you take
both
something like
equally...
Kill Bill, it literally is choreographed.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but they're choreographed for different reasons. Kill Bill is basically a fucking musical number, and David Lynch is choreographed in a way of like, what is the optimum way for me to shoot this to upset people, and to provoke, and to basically take a stick and just jab them in the stomach with it, like that.
So maybe I'd like you to speak a little bit about these aims that you're. What?
Because I think that's the world he wants to go into. He wants to make something murky and difficult to digest. He doesn't want it to be, nice, clean ending. Every Tarantino movie has somewhat of a clean ending. I think.
But before you were talking about how this is kind of like an exercise in displaying his inner. Shame or whatever, right? Like, you had some quote where you talked about. Okay, so is that the same thing then as necessarily him like strategizing a message to convey? Because that seems a little bit different to me.
I mean, it can be both of those things.
You know what I'm saying?
But it can be.
But the first seems a bit more like outside of your control, whereas the second one feels more crafted.
So what's outside of your control? What Lynch saying? This is my flaws.
Like you confessing your darkness, your darkest.
I think it depends on the artist, doesn't it? It depends on how much they tell you.
Well, I'm just saying, if I'm going to sit down and write something, right? Yeah. And like, I could. It's very difficult, of course, to write about your biggest shame or the things you don't want to write about.
Yeah.
On the other hand, but to sit there and like craft a narrative where you're really thinking about that seems craft, which in a way, craft is the opposite of like, it's like you have all the control when you're crafting something. You're absolutely not struggling to write that next sentence. You're like, I'm going to get them like this way. But so for me, it's like coming at something from a different.
Yeah, because, he spent years making a movie, and he had to get millions of dollars to make it. Like, there has to be a craft to it. And that he's laced it.
But I mean, in terms of like, because just the language that you're using, like, he wants you to do this, right? I
don't think he wants you to do anything. That's the thing. It's only ever as much as you want to put in or take out from his movies. Like,
no, but you said a second ago that, like, I'm not trying to like put you on the spot. You were like, he wants to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He wants to. So there is like an aim here.
Sure, but but it's like, let's say the aim, but each scene has a different aim. For example, there's the scene when they're driving along and like he rams into the back of that guy's car after he gives him the finger.
Mm-hmm. That's a funny scene.
Yeah, so it's a funny scene. But is it also like a weird scene? Is it also uncomfortable?
Very weird.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, but it's like it can be any number of those things. You could have all those reactions. You can just have one of those reactions. You might watch the Patricia Arquette strip scene where she's got the gun pointed to her head, and I watch and I go like, wow, what a deeply upsetting situation. Or you can be like Tom and get a fucking erection. Like, what am I supposed to like? Is one right and one wrong? Of course not. Like, it depends on you as a viewer.
Yeah, but sometimes, and this is the problem with that kind of like, oh, I'm really doing this to criticize the porn industry, right? It's like, it's that whole, I can't remember, but that's a very classic kind of approach where it's like you're having your cake and eat too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know what the worst film for that is in terms of particularly like how exploitative? I mean, this is the thing: is that okay? Here's why this film for me is not exploitative with that: is that Lynch is consistent throughout the movie. Like how he shoots the whole movie is the same. Like he doesn't do anything outside the norm when it comes to the sex scenes. It is part of that milieu. A film that I have a really big problem with the sex scenes is Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know if either of you have seen that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Right.
I liked that movie though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie, but the sex scene, the 9-minute sex scene, where, you know, he shoots a whole movie and it's all close up, it's in the face, you know, you don't see a full thing. And then he goes to the sex scene and the director let me just pull this camera back and let's get a nice wide 2-shot as I watch these two women have sex. And it's like, you know, that was a moment for me in that movie where I felt very jarring and actually very exploitative within the film. Within this movie, and
that's like masturbation worthy, that film, to be fair.
I mean, I was in the cinema and I was sat next to my dad. I'm not going to start doing that.
Okay.
I see that.
But maybe that's for a reason, though. You know, that my point there is like,
because I'm in the what? Because I'm in the cinema. Yeah, I'm gonna...
No, my point is it's masturbation worthy, probably because it is exploitative. In a way,
of course,
right?
Of course.
Like I didn't find this film particularly erotic.
Well, there you go. Then
I mean, yeah.
So, but is your question then like, are there people out there who find this erotic and like using this as material for masturbation? Like, is that what you're implying? Because I'd find that tenuous if that was the case.
We'll just come back then.
Well, if you pause on certain shots of Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
What is this podcast? I thought this was a classy podcast where you talked about, you know, William Blake and Canterbury Tales.
I'm just answering the question. But I think we've touched upon another important Lynchian element, and that is the sense of humor. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of, you know, you could call this a horror film in a way, or certainly you could describe Mulholland Drive as a kind of horror film, maybe Inland Empire too, but they're also all hilarious. You know, there's so many outrageously comic, laugh out loud scenes. I mean, I can think you just mentioned one, the car chase, and you know the scolding he gives this guy after he pistol whips him. You know, I want you to get a manual and I want you to study that motherfucker. And the guy's crying, okay. I mean, I remember seeing that in the theater. It's like, you know, some people are just shocked, like, what the fuck is that? But I was laughing my ass off. I mean, it's there's so many. Or here's another moment, right? Like the two cops are staking out the Balthazar Getty character, and one says to the other, "This guy gets more pussy than a toilet seat." I mean, it's just this random.
I laughed at that. To be fair,
Lynchian dialogue. You know,
it's very funny.
It's so like out of place, and that adds to the uncanny, it's unsettling nature of it. You know, yeah, it's crude, but it's juxtaposed with all this other, you know, high art, I don't know, these high concept elements that it's you just add that to the mix, and I don't know, to me that is quintessential Lynch. The unsettling humor as much as the dream element and everything else we've talked about.
Yeah.
So even these disturbing scenes, like the ones you're mentioning, the gun to the head and everything, that too is a kind of parody, right? Like from a certain perspective, it's so over the top that you laugh at it. Like the guy who pulls out the gun, like his expression, it's like so overacted that you almost have to laugh in spite of yourself, even though you're uncomfortable at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
what do we think of the use of? Oh, hold on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, is my connection fucked up again?
It's spotty, but go ahead. Okay. We can hear you now.
So, I was just going to ask about like the technology side of it, because it kind of feels like his most like technologically advanced film, particularly like the use of like the camera, where he says like, I just want to like remember it how I want to remember it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it feels like he's kind of like criticizing the sort of wanting to document everything elements of like having a video camera and filming stuff, which is interesting to consider. That was 1997 and now we're in 2025, and it's I get a picture of Tom's meals pretty much once a week or so, like if I'm lucky. So it's
I've scaled down a little bit, bro.
You have, to be fair. You have.
Well, we're still in the VHS age, right? Like the videos that they receive in those manila envelopes are VHS cassettes, not DVDs even, right?
No.
So I mean, looking back on it nostalgically, I appreciated it at the time, but that was all I knew at the when I saw it in the theater. But now looking back on it, there is a kind of nostalgic feeling that I get.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm reconsidering what we were saying about the 50s, 60s, and so on. You may have logged off when I mentioned this, but that noir element harkens back to like the 30s and 40s, so it's and also we should point out, the model for the, I don't know if it's the Renee or Alice character, maybe both of them to a certain extent. The model, as Patricia Arquette has specifically said, was Betty Page, the pinup girl with the bangs, right? I mean, she really does look like her. Just the ultimate, I guess she would be 50s or 60s pinup girl, but with the noir element, we're reminded of, I don't know, a Dashiell Hammett story that.
Do you think she's intentionally not like, her beauty is not like maybe super stereotypical? Would you agree? Like, I think she's very beautiful, but she's not. I don't know. There are probably actresses that are more like cosmetically.
It's the Barbara Stanwyck thing. It's like Barbara Stanwyck is like, she had like like quite a large nose and quite a pointed face, but she played a femme fatale in Double Indemnity, and it's like, I understand why this man is ruining his life to be with this woman.
Like, I mean, I'm just asking, like, do you think Lynch picked her because she's not maybe as cliche of like a
maybe? I mean, there's so many, like, when it comes to making a movie, like the amount of elements that are at play where it's like, oh, I need 15 million. Okay, well, you need this actor, you need one of these 5 actors to get it made. Okay, well, I'll go to Patricia Arquette.
What do I know? What should I know about her? Because again,
True Romance.
The only movie that came to mind, True Romance. Okay, my friend Ryan loves that movie.
Have you not seen it?
I don't think so.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, I know. Like, I can see the movie poster, but yeah.
Is that with Christian Slater?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. That's a Tarantino
what else is she?
Script,
or like,
isn't it?
Tarantino script, Tony Scott directing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the cast. Anything else?
Well, hold on. Let me just Patricia about her. Arquette? Like, what else?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the state of her career at the time? Do you know? Like,
I think it's ruined it for her.
I knew her sister better, Rosanna Arquette, and there's also a David Arquette, and there was a
Former WCW
brother.
World Champion David Arquette.
Yeah, there you
go. I think this kind of ruined her career for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, kind of like what's her name from Twin Peaks? Played Laura Palmer.
Laura Palmer. Yeah. See, we don't even know her name.
Oh god.
Not Sherilyn Fenn, but the
no,
other
not
one.
Sherilyn Fenn. Oh my god, this is disgraceful not knowing this.
Can you expand on like why would that have ruined her career for a while?
Because it was the 90s, and if you're a woman who gets naked in a film and no one likes the film, then you're, marked. Cheryl Lee is who I'm thinking of, by the way, from who, she did Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me, and then her career was like ruined because of it.
Can you like fully expand on that?
What do you mean?
Like, what is that narrative that you're talking about? So if you got naked in a 90s film and the public didn't like it,
yeah, they blamed you. Like that's
the public
a lot of blame.
Blamed you, or the studios blamed you. I don't understand.
Yeah, like it was almost like you had a mark against you. Do you know what I mean? Like you did nudity in a grotesque film, and now.
But I thought that's always like something you have to do as an actress to kind of like you don't necessarily even want to, but you're like I got to do this to get.
It worked for Kate Winslet in Titanic.
Yeah, but that's Titanic, which made $1 billion, and Lost Highway.
That's the difference.
Lost Highway gets 2 thumbs down from Roger Ebert.
Right.
Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
One's doing a classy, big budget production. One's making a scuzzy movie that's making men feel bad about their sexual, issues.
That's why Siskel and Ebert didn't like it.
Yeah, which is hilarious coming from the classic horn dog himself, Roger Ebert. So that's I don't know. And Gene Siskel as well.
About him.
Yeah, Siskel and Ebert, dirty dogs, the pair of them.
I can believe it about Siskel, but how about Bill Pullman as Fred Madison? I always thought I thought at the time when I saw it, I don't know that I should say always, but at the time when I saw it, I thought he's kind of too awkward for this role. But now, I guess I think that's appropriate, right? Like his obvious insecurities are what make him perfect for it in a way. And I recently saw him in this series called The Sinner. I don't know if either of you've seen that, but it's really good. And he's like all his insecurities are on display there. And I think he makes it work really well. This is obviously a much younger version of him. I mean, that was like 30 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Almost.
He's great in this.
Yeah.
I think he's I don't know, he's got like as you say, that awkwardness. He feels like a guy who should have his life together and feels like he should have his life together, and it just isn't. And it crushes him in a way that he can't. It's almost like he can't get it out. Like he can't really talk about it. It's I don't know. I think it's a particularly strong performance from him in this. But
how about the fact that he's a musician? What are Lynch and Barry Gifford trying to tell us about?
Well, he's
the man who can't. He can't express himself verbally, so he has to do it through music. Is that the idea?
He has to. The only way he can perform sexually is with the saxophone, because he's just like he's letting it rip with the saxophone. People are going wild with his saxophone playing,
right?
And then his wife is deeply, deeply unsatisfied. So, I think that's what it is.
I need to rewatch Clearly because, I'm allowed to admit my ignorance, but I just missed this stuff.
Is it not obvious that saxophone, penis replacement?
No, but can you just tell me a little? Can you remind me? Because again, I was super tired.
There was
what?
No, watching in the middle of the day with the curtains closed, but that's
so there's the sex scene where apparently he finishes too quick, right? And then she's consoling him.
Well, he's and then he turns around and he sees the Robert Blake character imprinted on her face.
Right.
And yeah, and then it's like someone's like getting to him in his mind's eye, and then he then is performing the saxophone, and then when he's doing it, it's like this wild performance.
What are the other manifestations of the insecurity? Like, is it the way that she deals with that guy at the party?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How that then he comes back in, when the young guy kills him, that's the only other time that character comes in. So it's the Bill Pullman character's reality blending, where it's just like, oh, she's cheating on me. Oh, I'm going to kill him, and then kills him. Do you know what I mean? Like that's that's the insecurities that happen.
He knows he's being cuckolded, right? Like he's asking her, "Are you coming to the club?" "No, I'm gonna just stay here and read." He says, "You're gonna read? What are you gonna read?" And then after his performance, and he kills, right? Like the club is all excited, everyone's cheering for him. It's a great wild performance, and then he tries to call her, and the phone rings interminably and no one picks up. And then as you say, there's the party scene. She's like flirting with the guy who has the pencil thin mustache. I don't remember
that mustache
his name.
is so absurd.
And brilliant. And
she's was that ever like a thing?
I get people who are really into John Waters. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, John Waters fans kind of did it maybe in the 90s, but
I just imagine trying to pull that off now.
Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who do that kind of stuff ironically, I guess, but even that's like pretty intense. It's pretty bold.
That's a skill to be able to have a mustache like that, to be fair. Like that takes a lot of that's like a Michelangelo level patience, I think, to have that sort of mustache. So yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I kind of like I would recommend not watching this again straight away, Tom, to be honest with you.
Oh, don't worry, I won't.
But you should rewatch it at some stage, or
I should rewatch it though.
Yeah, I mean, or watch another Lynch, like watch something like Blue Velvet.
For sure.
Or, I mean, The Elephant Man. I mean, how have you not seen that? That's like the one for saps like you. That's the one you should be watching, right? Like,
cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
No sex and violence. Maybe a little violence, but
emotional violence.
I get it from my mama.
Yeah. Oh damn.
Well, anyway. How about Robert Loggia as Mr. Eddie?
So good.
And Dick Laurent.
Unbelievable.
I mean, we've talked about one scene. I'd actually like to watch that. It's so good, but I don't know. Should we try?
Nah. Do you know the scene? There's a bit in his performance that really I found quite upsetting. Was the bit when they're watching the porno, and then he's got Patricia Arquette up against the projector, and how he's kind of like mounting her standing up is so like full on and kind of gross, like a not even like an animal, like some like demon character. That's actually something that happens in Lynch movies. Is there's guys who turn into sort of like a demon, and just they have an insatiable desire to be with this woman or whoever.
Who's the gay icon?
You like rapper? Pornos, Pete? Give you a boner.
Go on, Tom.
I was thinking. No, who's the gay rapper? He turns into it like the guy who did the. You know what I'm talking about? He had the huge country western song.
Nelly. What are you talking about?
He's not gay. Oh, Lil Nas X.
Oh, Lil Nas. Oh, okay.
And Lil Nas X, one of his like subsequent videos, he like becomes the devil, and it's like
yes. I know what
kind of reminds me. Yeah. Anyway, that's the image that came to mind.
What about Richard Pryor in this? I forgot Richard Pryor was in this.
Richard Pryor and Gary Busey. Gary Busey's in it.
Busey's great in this. Go on. What's your issue with the Pryor performance, Tom?
No, it didn't seem like he got to do too much. I don't know.
I don't think he could have, to be honest. He was wheelchair bound at that
on
time.
His last
legs. He genuinely was wheelchair bound. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was what he was like at that stage. He was not in a good state.
It's his last performance.
But I don't know, like, I love that performance. I know we know it's Richard Pryor. We know he had a crazy life. But it really does come through in that character. It's like, wow, this guy probably had a crazy life, and now he's working at a car mechanics. And it's like, yeah, some of those people just have that life. It's quite something. But yeah, Pryor is, I think, wonderful in it. I know that some people thought at the time it was like a bit exploitative to have him in there, but I don't know. I just thought he was
he
clearly character.
He clearly enjoyed it,
Yeah,
or he seemed to.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like Larry David keeping that one friend of his on until the end.
Richard Lewis.
Yeah, keeping Richard Lewis on when he was like, oh
dying.
Man, he was a corpse at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Well, how about the Getty heir? The Getty heir, Balthasar Getty, scion of the Getty oil family.
See, I remember from my first viewing, I was like, this guy's not a good actor. And I watched it this time, and it's like, he's not a good actor, but that's perfect for it. Like, it has to be...
Which character is this, sorry?
The boy who's the mechanic.
Pete.
Ah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
He actually should not be a good actor, because it's this guy's fantasy, and it's a normal dude having a fantasy. So his acting shouldn't be that great. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's having to do an off-the-cuff performance, and his brooding intensity is not really that brooding, and is like, when he has the argument with the girlfriend, it comes across kind of a bit weak, and it's like, actually, yeah, it should be like that. I think that's always something that I like to push back against now, is like the idea of like, oh, it's a bad performance. It's like, yeah, but is it the right performance? Do you know what I mean? Like, and it should be, should someone give an amazing performance in that spot? Probably not. And I think that that's what's so well pitched about that segment.
Are you implying that that was the intended performance, though?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I mean it's
the
like actor was very conscious of that. Yeah.
It's like he may not have been, but Lynch was.
Yeah.
It's
right,
like,
but that was
like
my question is how conscious.
Well, he probably thought he was doing a great job.
Yeah, you don't go. Yeah, he thought he was James Dean. You don't go to an actor and say, "I want you to be shit. I've cast you because I know you're crap." Like,
not shit, but like give it. What, you don't think a talented actor can?
Of course,
can give that kind of muted fakeness.
Of course.
Like,
let me
let
me bring up the work of Balthazar Getty then, and we can discuss his other great performances.
It's a cool name, Balthazar. Wow.
Natural Born Killers, which is a terrible film, and
I want to see that.
Megalopolis, which was fine. No other great performances here from Mr. Getty. I can see.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know. Wait, you've not seen Natural Born Killers?
No.
Don't. It's not very good. I know that might be sacrilege to some, but I'm not a fan.
I liked it. I mean, it's a Tarantino script, right? Oliver Stone directed. What do you dislike about it?
Oliver Stone's direction of that film. I think it's a mess. Rodney Dangerfield is good in it.
You don't like Stone, right?
Oh no, I like Stone. I think Any Given Sunday's absolutely fantastic. Like, absolutely just like getting assaulted sort of level of cinema. It's just, I love it.
Isn't that what Natural Born Killers is too? That's an assault on the senses.
Yeah, sure, but it doesn't work for me in the same way.
I see.
Yeah.
Defend your position, Joe.
I liked it. I haven't seen it in a while though.
Same. I can't defend an opinion.
I think I was like recommending Savages. Did I do that?
Good movie.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It is a good movie.
Did I mention that in one of our Dylan podcasts? I don't know.
I feel like you might have, because doesn't he use a Dylan song in it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Hot chili peppers in the blistering sun. Yeah. That's
what song was that again? That song was ridiculous.
No, it's not. Joe, that's the best song on Desire.
I think, Joe, you did like a good sing. You like sang that during our pod, right? No. I remember you.
Hot chili peppers in the blistering sun. Romance in Durango.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
What was the really bad song that we discussed? The one that was like
Joey.
Crazy Joe.
No, the song that was the most ridiculous was the one about that island vacation place.
Mozambique.
Yeah, Mozambique. That's
a great
silly.
song. What are we talking about?
All right, let's get back on track here.
Okay.
We're going to start talking about the kelp in a second from the design, aren't we?
Oh, it is related. We were talking about movies, Oliver Stone, Natural Born Killers.
It's all related.
Yeah, it is. Okay, how about the Mystery Man?
Yes,
Robert Blake, convicted murderer.
Yes, yeah.
Seriously?
He had a King of Comedy situation. Yeah, where he had a stalker and the guy broke into his house and all that. And he murdered him. So, yeah.
This was after the performance
Of
as
course,
the Mystery Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he died in jail, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think
he did.
so.
I looked up his filmography. Robert Blake. He worked that man. He was in a lot of stuff.
He was a child actor.
I mean, he did like 130 films, I think it was, in his entire 130 films. In Cold Bloods, Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Right.
I mean, there is nothing like this performance with the sort of unbelievable, ghostly face of that guy. Like something just like plucked from the recesses of his mind is incredible.
All right.
Was there an equivalent like archetype character in Mulholland Drive?
Dumpster. Guy behind the dumpster.
Right. Okay.
No, I'm trying to think the equivalent in that one is the cowboy.
The cowboy, yeah, that's what I was
cowboy.
If you see me once, you've done well.
Yeah.
If you see me twice, you've done bad. Like, yeah. Go on.
And we mentioned Bob in the Fire Walk with Me. He's kind of a mystery man character.
Yeah.
I insist on this. Let's see if it works.
Great Barry Adams music.
Can you hear it okay?
Yeah. It's pumping.
There he is. And the music stops.
Brilliant.
We've met before, haven't we? I don't think so. Where was it you think we met? At your house, don't you remember? No, I don't. Are you sure? Of course. As a matter of fact, I'm there right now. What do you mean you're where right now? At your house. That's fucking crazy, man. Call me. Dial your number.
Look at Pullman here.
Go ahead.
What a performance.
Interesting tattoo there on his hand.
Yeah.
I told you I was here. How'd you do that? Ask me. How'd you get inside my house? You invited me. It is not my custom to go where I'm not wanted. Who are you? Give me back my phone. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
The one later where he's on the phone to the boy, that is even more menacing, I feel like, because you've seen the trick before and you're like,
Yeah.
what is it? What is this guy gonna do? Like, what?
Well,
can
Mr.
he...
Eddie's there too, right? Like, how you doing,
Yes.
Pete? That's great.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Great. That's great.
The contrast. Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the most Lynchian scenes ever. If someone asks you for a 5-minute scene, what is Lynch?
Yeah.
Send them that. Send them that.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. I think that is... Do you know what, actually? I wonder if that's why I like this one the most. Is because I actually feel like it's quite an interesting cross point in his filmography. Do you know what I mean? Where he's gone from like... He's starting to edge into a different sort of like scope, I feel.
Yeah.
Particularly like when he gets to Mulholland. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like there's something about that leap that he takes. And then obviously Mulholland was a huge success. I find it weird though that he did Mulholland Drive and then he couldn't get money, so he had to shoot Inland Empire basically by himself. I wonder what happened in that time in between the two, because obviously Mulholland was a huge hit. And then when Inland Empire came out, I remember like the reaction to him. You know, people were like, "This is terrible. Like, what's he doing?" You know,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you were saying
like
you don't like rabbits, which is a big part of Inland Empire.
No, I do like rabbits. I just wouldn't have anything to say about it.
Oh,
beyond.
I see.
You know what I mean? So
okay.
I think that would be more my point. I just think I'd rather talk about Lost Highway, and I'm thoroughly pleased we chose Lost Highway because what a movie.
Yeah, well, so have we turned you, Tomek, or a naysayer?
No, I'm definitely not a naysayer. I think you've helped me unpack it a little bit more, and yeah, I tend to be admittedly pretty slow when it comes to films that are more like labyrinthine in nature, labyrinthine, or I don't necessarily pick up what I'm supposed to necessarily pick up.
I would.
Well, you've got to apply the dream logic. You know, it's like, what does a dream mean?
Yeah. I would.
I think I have to care more as well, though, about these actors, about the characters, and maybe if I can sense that guy's insecurity more and really kind of plug into it, that might be like a key to appreciating it.
That's a key part of all of his films. Really, is like the main character has a sense of insecurity.
And I got the Naomi Watt character. I mean, I connected to her. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
That frustration.
But watch The Elephant Man, because I think that's his most blunt in terms of like the insecurity. Because of course that guy has got an insecurity.
Michael Jackson was a big fan of The Elephant Man.
Yeah, he was.
You know, I'm a big Michael fan, so I mean, Michael related to that character. Is my point.
Yeah, so you might relate to it more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Scarlet letter that I bear every day.
We've all got one, you know. Like
What, your Michael Jackson fandom?
Mine or Tom?
No, Tomek.
No, I'm talking about
saying?
like. No, I'm just saying like the Elephant Man's got his face and Michael's got his issues, and we all. And I'm saying
being a Michael Jackson fan is your equivalent.
No,
that's
just the general. The general albatross.
You have a Scarlet M or
who's
MJ.
Who's the artist that you just defend no matter what?
Is it Michael? Obviously, for me, yeah.
What about you, Mark?
Paul McCartney, maybe.
Well, he's not a notoriously evil man. That's what I'm saying is like an evil person who. Allegedly, sorry, I should
himself.
Say.
Yeah, Mark Will.
Yeah.
We hinted at this before, but I think some attention should be paid to the soundtrack.
Wait, are you not going to answer that question then? I mean, it is an interesting question.
What? Oh,
is there like a major artist whose reputation is just shocking, but you...
Louis Ferdinand
Well, we recently did the pod on Gauguin,
we like
right?
Him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know. Philip Roth.
Do you know what I'm reading at the moment? I'm
What's
reading Roth's The Professor of Desire. Have you ever read this?
Okay, there you go.
Have you read this?
I haven't read that one.
So good. So good. It's
I mean, I've read that's the what's the character's name? Not Zuckerman, but what's the professor's name?
David Kepish.
Yes, David Kepish, who appears later as an old man in The Dying Animal. So you'll want to read that after you finish this.
I will. I'm when it comes to my Rothness, I'm more of the sex Roth rather than political Roth. So that's more.
Well,
like,
that's
Sabbath
definitely
Theatre.
Yeah. Sabbath Theater. That's his masterpiece. But The Dying Animal, The Human Stain. If you read that,
I've not read The Dying Animal, and I have read The Human Stain.
Yeah,
I just think he's amazing. Can I just say, by the way, linking to Roth, my guy that I'm ride or die for, through all the terrible films, through all the terrible. If you make a allegation remark against Woody Allen, I will absolutely go into meltdown.
I was just about to mention him.
Yes,
I was just about to mention him. All right, so what's your favorite Woody Allen film?
Deconstructing Harry. That's my favorite.
Okay,
that's the most Rothian.
That, for sure. That, in fact, I've heard that it's his takedown of Roth. It's a satire on Roth.
He's shitting on Philip Roth throughout the whole movie.
They didn't like each other personally.
No, they hated each other, and I love it.
But the first time I heard, my friend Herman read me an excerpt from Portnoy's Complaint over the phone. I'm like, what is that? A Woody Allen book? He's like, no, it's this guy called Philip Roth. So
I think that's the only book that I've read. I liked it.
Yeah, that was the beginning. Of course, he read the section entitled "Whacking Off."
Yes,
but
of course.
yeah. But
I
was just gonna say, sorry, I was just gonna say, yes, Deconstructing Harry. Crimes and Misdemeanors,
masterpiece.
Husbands and Wives, Hannah and Her Sisters,
yep,
and probably my favorite, Stardust Memories.
Underrated, I feel like Stardust Memories doesn't get brought up enough as a great Woody Allen movie. For me, I'm going to go.
It's kind of his most Lynchian.
It is definitely the opening when he's going to that festival and like he's got the shot on his face as people are like. And then people are like criticizing him, going like, "Why can't you do your earlier funny ones?" It's like that's just brilliant. And then also Charlotte Rampling is just so incredibly beautiful in that film. It's what a movie. But yeah, Deconstructing Harry, Husbands and Wives. Let's go with. I'll go with Hannah and Her Sisters. And do you know what? I'm gonna throw out one here that's a little bit under the radar. Cassandra's Dream.
Oh shit, guys! He just dropped it, y'all. He just dropped Cassandra's Dream on this shit.
Cassandra's Dream.
One of the later ones. I think I saw that. From that period, I liked Match Point. I thought that was really good.
Wasn't such a fan of that one, but I love Cassandra's Dream. That's a really good one.
What's the one with Josh Brolin?
You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger.
Yes, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah. I like all of them.
That's the point.
Even the shit ones.
Yes. Yeah.
You know. But yeah, if anyone makes any allegations against that man, I go into a bit of a. I start machine gunning people with like facts. I'm just like, no, that's not what happened. No, I've become one of those guys, and it's.
He had a skin disease. Yeah,
that's true though. I was just like
Michael, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I ruin the dinner party. I ruin the drinks. Morrissey's another one as well, where people will say something and be like, well, actually, he's a very profound songwriter and, blah, blah, blah.
I ride from Morrissey.
Yeah. Have you read the biography, the autobiography, rather? The recent one? Not Without Feathers, but I've got it on my shelf here. I haven't read it yet. Yeah.
The Woody Allen one?
The one that was pulped at his... biological son's insistence.
Yes.
Allegedly. We all know that's Frank Sinatra's son, but what's the name of that biography?
It's called I can't remember the name of it. But I remember it's got like the black cover with the white font.
Yes. Yeah, I've got it here, but yeah.
This Lost Highway review has really gone off the tracks here, but
yeah, well, we've already.
You'll have to kind of retitle it to
intertextuality.
Topics.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
Yeah. Should we wrap it up then, or what?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
So this has been season 4, episode 3 of Texting. Our text was David Lynch's Lost Highway. Our special guest has been Joe Greenwood, Crazy Joe, of the 10 terabyte hard drive podcast.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us.
Part 2 of the Zalman King series coming out this week. Keep your ears out for that.
Okay. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Thank you.
And we still, later this season, we'll do Dylan's Highway 61 Revisited. That's coming up.
I'll be back.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
Whether you want me to or not, I will be there.
Oh, we want you to. We need you to. We need your input. Thanks,
Mark,
as
I'm
always.
thinking for the next episode.
Yes, what's the next text?
Something by Radiohead, because we haven't done anything by Radiohead. So I'm gonna let you pick. I'm gonna let you pick an album.
In Rainbows has to be, no?
Oh, I have to pick, huh? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna let you pick because I kind of love so many of their albums, and I don't really mind. So it'll just give me a chance to kind of go a bit deeper.
Are we gonna talk about Tom York's Zionism?
I was bracing myself to drop that line on there. Yeah.
Isn't Greenwood more of the Zionist?
Well, yeah, but
Johnny Greenwood, by the way, not Joe Greenwood. I want that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but there's the whole York Roger Waters controversy, so that'll probably come up.
I think Johnny has sort of infiltrated and influenced them a little bit. Kind of the opposite to the bass player from Mumford & Sons, who became a big Jordan Peterson guy, and then he got kicked out of the band for being like a manosphere dude. So,
but no, I mean, I want us to focus on the music. The music, of course.
All right, here we go. There's the right.
I'm sure it'll come up. But all right, yeah. So everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're at Mark Will Write WRITE. We're on Substack. I'm at Mark Will Write WRITE. Tomek is at tomekb.substack.com. So thanks again, everyone.
Yeah,
we will see you next time.
Peace.
All right, it's uploading. If you guys, you don't have to stay here, but if you could